Hello everyone, it is episode 21 of this Treasure Inside edition, and I am joined once again by the management. The management, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Stayed out of the sun this weekend. Got a lot of treasure hunting stuff done for myself, so I felt very productive.
Oh, we're going to have to talk a lot about that, but our podcast is 21, which means drinking is now allowed on the podcast. Are you partaking at all?
Yeah, I have been this whole time. Anytime somebody says John Collins Black, I do a shot.
Well, yeah, I've been drinking underage on our podcast for quite a while.
You're Australian.
That's right. But
That's actually one of my favorite lines from Orange is the New Black, which it was very early on in the series. They are sitting down as a family and they look at one of the guys and he's like, "I'm not an alcoholic. I'm Australian."
Oh, I should use that then. Okay, well, there's a lot to go through this week. We want to recap some things, some comments people have made on the episode from last week. We've got a guest on tonight, so you're bringing the guest tonight, correct?
Yeah, I'm bringing the guest.
So who we got?
His name is Mike and he goes by Chasing an Epiphany on Discord.
Oh, I like that name.
I know, it's very elder emo.
Elder Emo? I didn't. Did you just make that up, or is that a thing?
No, that's definitely a TikTok thing. Elder emos are the people who were emo when emo first came out.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'm an elder millennial. That's why I kind of piqued my interest. Good. So we'll bring Mike on. He's going to go through a Forrest Fenn solve. That's good because I think the only Forrest Fenn solve we've really gone through so far is Mr. Froggy, friend of the podcast. So getting a different perspective on that's going to be great.
Yeah, and Froggy's been very busy on YouTube lately. He's pumping it out.
Froggy's always busy. It's like he puts out a video every day. Very industrious. All right. Well, as always, why don't we start with the news of the week?
All right, so I felt very vindicated over the weekend while I was doing my research because we talked last week about how John Collins Black, how I felt like there was a political undertone to the entire book. And one of the things I listened to was episode 5 of the American Treasure podcast. And when asked about how his book is meant to be different from Forrest Fenn's, JCB says, "It's not going to be anecdotal stories about my life. I want to talk about things I feel like go beyond me to things that are relevant to our society today." So I think I'm on to something.
Oh, wow. JCP's getting political.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be like a rant about communism or something, is it, this whole thing?
I don't know. It could be.
Imagine that. Imagine this whole thing was like to get us into a particular political or bureaucratic way of thinking about our society. I'm ready to be taught. I'm on board. Well, you're really on a roll because we had a comment on Reddit this week on the Treasure Inside subreddit about your theory from last week, which I really liked, about Aesop's fables. That's right, Aesop's. Apparently, everyone's learning how to say this correctly. But they said, I like the management's idea about Aesop's fables. I also learned how to pronounce Aesop. But I think the 4 small treasures would be represented by the 4 predators, where the lion's share treasure would be the stag, because number 1, the smaller treasures help us get to the larger treasure since they have a clue for it, and 2, the large treasure is literally called the lion's share, and the fable,
Aesop.
the lion gets the largest share of the stag. What's your thoughts about that take on your take from last week?
I'm buying. I absolutely love the inverse perspective because he's totally right. The lion's share was the majority of the stack. So I'm with him.
Well, that's great. Okay, we're honing down this theory. I have big faith in this theory. I think we could be onto something here. Let's say I joined the theory just by listening to what you said.
We're a team, Chaz.
I really like your theory here about the animals in the lion's share fable. So again, Go onto Discord, Reddit. We're in a lot of places. Comment on the episode. Let us know your perspective. And we'd like to see if we can refine this even further.
One thing that I will say is that this reverse role that has been brought up by this Redditor, do we know their handle?
It is M777Z.
That's very ambiguous. Cool. That person does not want us to say their name on the air, but here we are. One of the things about this theory is that it completely screws my ideas for the rest of the boxes. But also, it might help make more sense of which one's the Pokemon box because that was the weakest one. I'm still sticking with Forrest Fenn is the Jackal. Feel free to send me hate mail if you disagree with that.
Well, if people are getting that worked up about it, it means we're onto something with this theory.
If you're not pissing people off, you're not doing it right.
That's right. Okay, so we have to talk about the treasure hunt tokens. Now, I actually jumped the gun last week. I skipped over a treasure hunt and then had to release the episode a day or two later because I gave the solution to some treasure hunts that were still in progress. However, I have to go back to the original token holder hunt, and there's a guy there with jeans on with a hose coming out of his pocket. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen this on the infomercials or not, but what that was referring to was the pocket hose. Have you heard of the pocket hose before?
No, but I've heard of a trouser snake.
Oh, wow, zing. Were you waiting for that the whole time I was talking? Because it looked like that just burst out of you. It sounded like
Already
it.
laughing before I said it, but yeah,
Okay,
kind of.
great. Very good. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to top this now. Should I even go through the rest? So I was going to say, do not Google pocket hose. And now I'm thinking for a different reason, do not Google pocket hose. But the reason I was going to say that is ever since I made this hunt, because I went onto the pocket hose website, I've been bombarded by ads. So it's the guy from Home Improvement, for those who are around long enough in the 90s, Al on Home Improvement.
Al Borland, I believe his name was.
This guy, they are just jackals, if we're going to use that phrase. These people really want me to buy the pocket hose. Like, I don't know how much that can cost. $20 or something? They must have spent $100 on advertising on me. Every YouTube video I watch, they're trying to sell me the pocket hose. So apologies to anyone that actually solved that and went on the pocket hose website, because now they're probably being hounded from an advertisement standpoint. But if you scroll down, there's a man in jeans and he has a little badge on, and there's a little badge further down, a little award which says the original. That was the solve for that. So don't go to pockethose.com. Don't go to trousersnake.com either.
Especially not on your work computer.
Right. Okay. So we need a code for this week for the treasure hunt token hunt. Don't. Oh god. Why did I ask you this?
Yeah, you think of one this week. I'm out of brain power, man. I have solved basically the entire thing.
Let's just go with trousers. That is the code for this week's free hunt, and of course we'll have a token holder hunt as well.
All right. So all, 13-year-old boy jokes aside, let's get on with the show and bring Mike in. I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Me too.
All right. So we have Mike here tonight to talk to us about his treasure hunting experience, and he's been boots on the ground for Forrest Fenn. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
You are most welcome. So I'm so excited to talk to you. I know you had reached out to me personally before you went on your boots on the ground trip, and props for sticking it in on a work trip to get some little personal time back. But I'm so excited to hear about what you found and kind of walk us through how your day to day went and like what you were feeling. If you have like any goosebump moments, tell me everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, I was working on the Forrest Fenn Box, and I've been working on them all, but because I had this work trip specifically out to the Colorado area, I thought, I had a solve or a theory that led me there. And so I was very excited, leading up to that trip, kind of counting the days on the calendar, figuring out, how I was going to squeeze in driving about an hour away from where I actually had to work. And I woke up at the crack of dawn. So I'm on East Coast time, normally where I live. And so I had the advantage of staying mentally on that East Coast time, waking up super early, according to Colorado time, and driving out there to the park where I thought it was. So that whole car ride, I'm just kind of jitters, holding onto the steering wheel, like could it really be there? Will I find it? And just the anticipation was killing me.
Let me ask you, Mike, did anyone else travel with you on the work trip?
No, no one else traveled with me, and, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing this, um, because obviously you're not really supposed to be, obviously, so I just ducked out to this park, and, I had to look around kinda by myself. I made sure that I was, there for the sunrise, which was a really cool experience in and of itself, and just to breathe in the beauty of this park in Colorado.
Colorado is one of those states that's just kind of magnificent all on its own. I've done a lot of traveling in the West, and I think Colorado just has something special about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you've never been, right? So I flew into Denver, and just as soon as you get out of the airport, you can see the mountains, the snow-covered caps in the distance. Even just driving on the major highways, it's really incredible to look at, especially if you're from New Jersey, where I am, and there's really, I live in a very suburban area where there's a lot of stores and strip malls, and it's quite a difference.
I lived there for 8 years, and I would live there now if I could, but I'm not allowed to. I've been banned. Not by the police.
Colorado or New Jersey?
Colorado. I lived in Denver for 8 years, so I would love to live there again, but, the family household is not allowing me to live there right now.
Oh, there sounds like there's such a good story behind that.
Well, the way I phrased it, I said I've been banned from living there, made it sound like a good story, but there's not a great story.
I mean, you can even get like mushrooms there. So the fact that you're banned from Colorado is pretty impressive. Anyway, back to Mike. So while you were there, you checked out this park. Why don't you start running through like your overall idea of how you found this park to begin with?
And the funny thing about this theory and the poem in general, right? It's very vague, right? So I definitely think there's so many interpretations anyone could make of the poem. So one of the things I thought about in kind of reviewing the Forrest Fenn original hunt itself was a big key to figuring out that solve was getting to know Forrest Fenn. So I just kind of started with trying to get to know John Collins Black, or JZB as we call him, right? And so I just looked into his past, did a little Googling, little trying to find out places he lived and things of that nature. And one of the things that popped up, really early on was he lived in a couple places. One place, Chapel Hills, North Carolina, and another place was uh, Woodland Hills, California. Now, obviously, this is via Google, so I'm not an expert, right? I don't know if he actually really lived in these places, but these were just things that came up. And since the first line of the poem is "I cruise along a road I know," I just thought, well, what if there's these areas somewhere in Colorado or one of the other four states? But I initially found Chapel Hills Mall in Colorado Springs. And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of a cool connection. Is it possible that it's somewhere near here? And then I saw very close to this mall is a road called Woodland Hills Road. Again, he lived in Woodland Hills, California. So that's kind of what got me searching in the Colorado Springs area to begin with.
I had a question before about whether JCB would be inviting people to look into his past and his personal life. But I have to say, the fact that he said, "A road I know," really, he's the only one that can speak to what he knows. I mean, if he didn't want people to be looking into him personally, he's probably phrased that very badly, I think, in the poem.
I agree. And that's exactly why I tried to look into him.
Yeah, and I've been going through all of the interviews and such lately, just looking for hints and clues. And on the last episode of American Treasure podcast, they did a clip where he's like, "I want all the clues to be in the book. I don't want everybody to have to like watch the interviews and pay attention to me." He's like, "It's all in there."
But having said that, though, that's still a question we have for him, though, is how much is it really all in the book? So, for example, we don't have all the maps of the United States memorized in our brain, right?
Oh, no,
So,
no.
if you were to go outside of the book to find out where it is, you would have to look at a map. That's not in the book, technically. So, we don't really know how far it extends outside the book. I presume somewhat, but the fact of all the clues should be in the book, I just can't see how that's possible.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, thought experiment, right? And I think with my full theory, there's a lot of things that I can poke holes in. Um, but kind of like maybe I'll fast forward to kind of where I think it is, and then if we want, we can work backward. But um, there is this park called the America the Beautiful Park, and as the poem specifically says, right, nestled all in a dream. So I kind of found this park and I thought, well, the American dream is kind of the quintessential dream, if you will. So how cool would it be if he put it in this park? And a couple things about this park that I think are pretty fascinating, and one or two of them relate to the management videos that she's posted. Um, is this park has a statue or monument, if you will, that is in the shape of a ring, and this park is also attached to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum, as well as the USA weightlifting headquarters. So there's a few different things that kind of lined up with the box design. So there's the U.S. Paralympic and Olympic Museum. If you look at it from Google Maps from the top down, it is in kind of the shape of a rhombus, which uh, management pointed out in one of our videos. The shape of the diamond on top of the treasure box design itself, at the angle that it is in the book, it looks like a diamond, but if you were to actually look at it from the top down, it would be a rhombus shape.
Which I'm very excited because rhombus is my favorite word and I don't get to use it very often. So I'm just so happy that A, my videos have been helpful for you, but also B, it includes a rhombus. Continue.
Rhombus is a great word. I agree. That's probably a top 10 word. You know, my favorite word is cove.
It's what?
And I think there's a cove,
Cove.
cove, like
Hmm.
dolphin cove. And I think there's a good chance that a treasure could be located in a cove as
There's
well.
a treasure trove in a cove.
I love that,
There
guys.
you go.
Um, but just getting back to the monument statue, right? That looks like a ring. So also from a video from the management, you pointed out that the olive jar language that you can make out, that you can kind of read the passage, talks about Forrest Fenn's mother who passed away, and a wedding ring that was taken off of her body when they were going to put her in the ground. And then the father, kind of threw a fit and insisted that the wedding ring stay on her. So you have this passage about the wedding ring. You have this monument, the statue that's in the shape of the wedding ring, which matches the coin design. Again, a silver circle. So you have all these things that kind of line up. And the last really cool thing about this park that I'll mention is when you're on the ground and you're looking through this circular statue, you can see the mountains, the peaks in the distance. And so it's possible, and management pointed this out, that this view matches the coin, right? You're looking through this circle and you're seeing the peaks, the point of the lines from the coin.
I just got goosebumps hearing my own theory.
So the big question is, did you see it? Did you go look in the circle? And what did you see when you looked through it?
I did, yeah. It's an incredible. I mean, it's an absolutely breathtaking park because you just see all the gorgeous mountains in the distance, and it's a wide open space, which again is very beautiful to behold. But there's not a lot of places to hide a treasure there, you know. So I think that's the one thing when you get on the ground anywhere is sometimes there's nothing in the area you're looking, and sometimes there's tons of trees and tons of hiding places, and you have no idea where something would be located. I at least had a little bit of a plan of action when I went to the park because there's yet another statue located in the park that has three um, stone walls, and on it there's a picture of a plaque that lists out the words to the America the Beautiful song, and on this plaque, There is a ship sailing across the sea, which is something that JCB says in the beginning of this chapter, that he wishes if he was treasure hunting, he would be on the bow of a ship, cutting through the water with the wind blowing through his golden locks, his hair. And on this same statue, there's some members of, I think, signing the Declaration of Independence. At least that's what I think is depicted, and they have kind of a golden locks that are showing on the picture as well.
Ooh. Is there a picture of that, or you're it's referring to that, and you know the picture of that?
No, no, it's actually, depicted on the plaque.
Oh, great. This park is like an urban park though, right?
Yes, it is.
So this is what I would love to be the case if one of the boxes is right under the nose of people that walk around it all the time. I would love it if at least one of the boxes isn't in the wilderness somewhere. It's hidden, just below everyone's nose or hiding in plain sight, I should say. Um, yeah, I would have to say though, you poking around at these statues and trying to move the rocks within it and lifting things up probably looks a little more suspicious than being out in the wilderness looking under rocks and logs, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I will state, just in case anyone that who manages the park is listening. I didn't lift any rocks. I didn't move any statues or anything. I just kind of scouted the area, right, and see if something stuck out that would be an obvious place to hide a treasure in plain sight, but that you wouldn't necessarily think to look at or look under.
I've kind of always felt that there had to be an urban location for one of them just because of the accessibility statements that should be everyone in America should have a chance, right? So we all naturally assumed that meant location and proximity to the treasure, which he's blatantly stated that. But also, there's so many more types of accessibility that we talk about these days. And maybe, okay, it's not on the East Coast and handicap accessible, but it is handicap accessible. So at least there is a shot to include that community as well.
It would make sense, right? That maybe not every box is like that, but everyone had a chance of fighting the box, even people who are disabled. That'd be a great story, I think, if one of them was found in a location just like this.
I mean, he definitely used that word accessible in a couple interviews, and this park is extremely accessible. In fact, there you could easily make sure, since it is on the property or connected to the property for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum. They make sure that it is, there is ramps for anyone in a wheelchair. There's an elevator for people to get down off of this bridge that you have to cross over. So it is very, very accessible for all individuals.
So, Mike, I know that part of the solve there was, and forgive me because this was a few weeks ago that we talked, but there was like a long river and a bridge. Did you check out that area too?
I did. So right next to the park, there is a golden bending creek, if you will, called Monument Creek. And I liked the connection of Monument Creek to the monument that is the circle or the ring in my interpretation, because in the poem, right, he says if you can mark where warm waters halt, the warm waters halt would be the Monument Creek, and then you also have the monument of the ring. So just the fact that he uses mark twice in the poem, I was connecting those two things to be the same thing. So a white mark shows upon the seat, and in my top-down view from Google Maps, the white mark is the statue showing upon the seat. So the park shape is literally in the shape of a seat.
I think it was an improvement on our last revelation with Froggy, where we thought maybe the seat was a toilet seat, right? Isn't that where we landed with Froggy? Management?
Yeah, there was some clue that had to do with that it was like this. Oh man, there's like this random toilet out in the wilderness that like was like this monument to like wilderness guides or something like this.
I mean, this one, the one the Mug's looking into. It wasn't in the shape of a toilet seat.
Well, kind of actually.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at it from a map, it could be interpreted as a toilet seat shape. I will say that.
So we landed back there again. We're back at toilet seat.
So real quick though, just to finish the thread on the creek. So the Monument Creek ends at this park, and it becomes a fountain creek, which again, this monument that is in the park actually has water in that comes down from it to cool people off in the summertime. So I just like the fact that this same creek changes names. It halts, right, from Monument Creek into Fountain Creek. I just thought that was, possibly another really good connection.
You would think fountain water is cool water, so it's warm water turning into cold water in the fountain. I think that's a really good solve.
Thanks.
Right now, I'm reading through the poem in my head. So we've got the first stanza, cool water flows. What do you have for the home of Brown?
Yeah, great question. So the Homa Brown for me, I'm actually using Leadville, Colorado, where Molly Brown and her husband JJ Brown used to live. Now, you may know the unsinkable Molly Brown from the Titanic, obviously, but did you know that her husband JJ Brown was a gold miner who discovered a large vein of gold in a mine called Little Johnny Mine?
I did not. I'm excited to learn that though.
Yeah, so I just like that connection of both the Browns, being, relatively close, kinda to this park, and just overall, right, the way I went about this all was, like, earlier in the poem, you have a much more zoomed out look on the map, and then as you're getting closer and further along in the poem, you're zooming in and you're zooming in, right, until you get to the final location.
All right. So now I'm going to come with the hard hitting one. A thinker's stone is all you need.
I am interpreting that as the stone from Rodin. I believe he designed it as part of a series called The Gates of Hell. So it's a traditional, man kind of holding his fist against his chin, thinking, right? And so when you kind of think of the Gates of Hell, there is the Garden of the Gods that is close to this park. So kind of that juxtaposition again of an opposite, right? So thinking kind of back to the Forrest Fenn solve and that treasure hunt, you had to go into the forest, you had to possibly wade through water, literally wade through water in order to get to his treasure. So this being accessible and completely in an open park where anyone could find it. And then also having this opposites with, the opposite of Gates of Hell being the Garden of the Gods.
I think you're onto something, but now you've gone, you didn't find it, and now you're back. Are you abandoning the idea or are you digging your heels in?
Well, I guess you could say I'm abandoning it because I'm here, publicizing it for anyone else to go look into. Um, but it's more so that I think, I just like the idea of sharing ideas, communally, like trying to figure out a solve together. You know, Obviously, like it would be great if something came back my way if someone found it, but realistically, I don't think that would happen. I just want to be sharing ideas and fostering a relationships with people because I think that's the best thing that's kind of come out of the treasure hunting community is people, making friends and making relationships and working together on something for fun that is, gonna potentially prosper people. I don't know. I love that idea.
Well, I'm already thinking about Molly Brown because knowing in Colorado, probably the most famous Brown is Molly Brown. I mean, her house is one of the biggest tourist attractions within Denver, the Molly Brown house. So I think really the Forrest Fenn treasure is limited to what, four states? New Mexico, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming.
Yep.
So Molly Brown, being one of the most famous people from one of those states, is getting me thinking a little bit. Also from Glenwood Springs, I think there's some connection with Molly Brown and Glenwood Springs, which is hot springs there. So warm waters halting. I'm sure that is starting to percolate in my mind a little bit as well. So it definitely has gotten me thinking about some of this. I wouldn't necessarily abandon that solve either because it sounds like you had a number of connections there that could be very useful.
Yeah, I'll definitely, keep working it, last couple like minor details, right? Is there was a new Santa Fe trail that leads to the Pikes Peak Greenway Trail that goes along this park. So, you have that mention of Santa Fe in the area as well.
Mm. Was there a certain point in time where you stood up straight when you were reading something on a map and you thought, "Wait a second, I might be onto something here"?
Oh yeah, well when I saw the America the Beautiful Park, right, I thought, "Oh, the American Dream, that's really cool." And then when I saw the ring, the ring statue in the middle of the park being the mark on the seat, I mean, immediately management's video is flashing in my brain, thinking about the wedding ring and the coin connection, and I just was like, "This is it. I need to go now."
Was there anyone around you when you discovered this, or was your heart beating, or how were you feeling at that point?
Oh, yeah, I think in the moment you have these realizations, which kind of, gets me to, just mention that if anybody wants to reach out to me on Discord, my name is Chasing an Epiphany, and, you have these epiphanies, right? These moments of just, like, what you think is clarity in your mind. Your heart races, your palms almost get sweaty, and it's this urge to just drop everything and fly, for me, fly across the country to go looking.
I think that's a really good way to put it, and it's in your username, Epiphany, because we could try to characterize how do people feel when they're doing these hunts? Are they excited when they're doing it? Are they going to be tremendously disappointed if they don't find it and it was somewhere else? But I think you really put it in a good sense then of having an epiphany is this rush of joy and clarity in your mind. That's what really the joy is coming from when searching for these treasures, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Just that moment of clarity, right? That, like you said, rush of blood to your head, if you will. It makes your heart beat. It's almost like a drug in some way, right? It's this adrenaline kick. But it's an incredible feeling and it makes you want to chase it over and over again.
So you mentioned you would love to get involved with more people from the community. Do you think that experience would have been magnified even more if you were doing that with someone else and you discovered it together?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it would be much better with people. I definitely think there is something that's lacking there. I think for a lot of us, the more people I talk to, I think there is this somewhat longing for connection in the community, which is why the Discord, has been so popular and so many people have joined because we want to work on these things with each other.
Yeah, how does your family respond to this? I know that I've tried to get every single one of my friends and family to like be involved with this with me, and some of them are taking to it a little bit, but everybody pretty much, there's nobody that's as sucked in as I am.
I think it's hard whenever you're passionate about something. You really have to search out the people that align with that passion. And I think this is a niche, right? It's getting more popular, but my family is at first didn't understand it. Now they've just come to accept it. But I think it's hard to convince people to love something you love, unless you find people that love the same thing.
It fascinates me to no end of how crazy this whole thing is of looking for treasure and how this appears to any normal people. But we say down with normies on this podcast. We don't want normal people. We want crazy people like us that are trying to find a treasure somewhere in the United States. But the people you're working with had no idea you were going on a treasure hunt as part of this trip, but what would they have thought if they thought while you're visiting here, you're searching for treasure? Like, normal people would not think this is normal, right?
No, no, they definitely wouldn't think it's normal, and I think even as soon as you mention, "I'm doing a treasure hunt," people immediately either zone out or they lean in and kinda, like, ask some questions, but then after they've fulfilled their curiosity, they zone out.
Yes, that makes sense, and they think, "Okay, this guy's a little crazy. Maybe I'll move on to something else." But we're all here as a community together to affirm that you're not crazy. You're doing the right thing, exciting part of your life to be looking for hundreds of thousands of $1 million in treasure. So thanks very much for sharing your story and coming on and going through your whole solve of what you think of where you think the Forrest Fenn box is. Is there anything else you wanted to share with our audience or things that they should know or any pitfalls you've come across that you want to warn people against?
Yeah, I would say the biggest pitfall, having gone boots on the ground now, right? You get really excited. You almost convince yourself that you're going to find it. And I think I've seen this in the Discord servers hundreds of times. People are 100% convinced they have the solve, they have the answer, and then they get there and it's not. And I think that can be very disheartening. It can be hurtful, right? And it makes you want to quit sometimes. But I think that you have to persevere, you have to keep trying, and just know that even if you don't find anything, right? Just like JCB says, the treasure is in the journey.
Well, thank you very much, and we'd love to hear from you again if you've had any more epiphanies of solves, and you're welcome to come back and tell us all about it.
Thanks so much, Mike. Loved hearing from you.
All right, thanks again, guys.
Well, that was great. Another guest in the books on this Treasure Inside edition. Was great talking to Mike. I loved going through his theories. Again, it was a theory that could work, right? Like I could see why he thought it could be the correct place to go. And sucks to be Mike if it really is the correct place to go and he just didn't find the treasure when he was searching there.
I really like how you led him forward with the Molly Brown and Glenwood Springs and all of that. And I think that if, there's some more digging to be done there. Just because it wasn't this park doesn't mean that park couldn't be a waypoint along the path to the correct location.
All right. Well, we've gone over time talking to Mike this week, so we'll have to wrap it up. We'll come back with our own clues and solves next week, I think. Let's continue on some of this, and we'll do more recapping of the different corners of the internet. By the way, one thing I wanted to say last week when I was talking about the Goonies, and the bulk of what I was finding there was actually on the Cow Lazar's forum. I wanted to make that point because if we are talking about the different forums we're looking through, I want to be able to give credit to the forums of where we're finding it. So again, the Cow Lazar's forum is really great on Discord. If you haven't seen it yet, go over there and check it out. It's a great community of people trying to solve this thing together. We'll come back next week with some of our own solves, some of the summaries from the different forums from around the internet. And good luck, everyone, treasure hunting this week. Let us know if you've got a solve or you're going boots on the ground. We'd love to have you on the show to talk about the experience. But have a great week, everyone. Find that treasure.